Some people complain when other people say Happy Memorial Day. People always want to say teachers don't get paid enough. I'll tell you who doesn't get paid enough is the people that serve in our military. That's a main thing that our government is supposed to provide is security and national defense. HHS secured voluntary industry pledges to reduce sugar in school lunches. This is what draining the swamp meant. Why are we having people like this still in the administration? We've never cut spending and cut taxes at the same time. This doesn't end well unless it ends. They never believe me. I would never drop the ball. I know I'm just report the fucking obvious. With the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new everybody. Just go. Let's fucking go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. And the other fucking guy joining me here in our little home studio is Chase. Chase, how are you, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you?
This is like the second time we let's just record on a holiday.
Yeah.
But you know what I love about that? I love that it worked out for both of us to do it today. You know, we had some things going on kind of yesterday. We could have made it work, but I really like that. And it kind of goes with my theme that you've probably gotten from me from the time that we've been together is every day is Monday, every day is Friday. We just grind every day, man. We just make it happen. We can enjoy things in the middle of the week, you know, and we're not just like, oh, you got to grind through the week and get to the weekend. I can't wait to the weekend. Like that's just, man, I prefer living like this, man. Take each day, do what I need to do, and enjoy the things that we've been doing. We went to Toca Madera for a second time. Oh, I got to tell you, this is so funny. So hats off to our friend Tanner who works at Toca, and he recognized us from the gym. And so, you know, we've been getting to know him. Well, he helped us with the reservation because there were no reservations available. And we got a prime reservation, you know, on a Saturday night, 7:00, which if you'd have checked online or anywhere else for weeks, you couldn't get it. Like I had gone out 3 weeks and couldn't get it. I messaged him, we got in, okay? Because it's a hot place to be, right? Probably one of the hottest restaurants in Scottsdale right now. But we invited our friends, Marlon and Lorna, and we had a great time there. And, you know, Dawn and I like to enjoy dessert.
Okay.
You know, one of the things if people don't want to listen to me because I'm nobody and I only got, 10 followers, Alex Hormozy, you know, I'm a big fan of Alex. He's got a lot of content now related to business. That's what he's best known for now. But when he first started his content, he was just a gym owner. You know, he owned gyms, and then he created systems to help gyms expand their customer base and be profitable, and that became how he made his big money initially. Well, the dude's been fit. You know, he's in his mid-30s, and younger, but he does know his fitness, you know, and does he take a little testosterone? Yes, 100% sure. But you still have to put in the work. And one of the things that he promotes is keeping it easy, much like I do. But like I said, you're not going to listen to me, so listen to Alex. And what Alex says to do is quite simple. Focus on the protein and then backfill everything else. Get your protein in, whatever you got to do to get your protein in. And then you can fill the back end, you know, what your remaining calories with, you know, carbs or potatoes or, you know, whatever carb you want to choose, that kind of thing. Or even dessert. He likes to enjoy dessert, but it's within his calorie model and he's getting his protein and it just fills it in. And it's a great model. It's a great way for people to you know, who wants to track everything? That's just people are just not going to track every single thing. Track one thing, track your protein. So I do like that Alex does that. So we like to enjoy dessert. And they brought us the menu, bunch of great things on the menu. and we're looking what we're deciding. And I don't know if they do dessert that much, but I'm like, look, we're not just doing one dessert. We're going to do 2 or 3 desserts, and we're just going to throw them in the middle, and everybody could just, dig in whatever they like. So there was a strawberry shortcake that was fantastic that we had brought out. There was, in fact, there's a picture of it on my Facebook if you want to pull that up. Then I don't know what the fuck this thing was called, but it was like in the shape of a hard skull, with a kind of a little bit of a shell, but it was in the shape of a skull. And inside was like this peanut butter mousse, that thing back there in front of Lorna. Dude. And it had raspberries and a raspberry sauce. And you're thinking, and peanut butter? Dude, it was peanut butter mousse. It wasn't like thick peanut butter. It was a light, whipped, incredibly tasting peanut butter in there. And I don't mind peanut butter. I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan, but that shit was motherfucking crazy good, right?
Okay.
And then, Dawn had her Americano, and then we had the butter cake there. That's the other one we picked. But before we ordered, Marlon's talking to me about, he sees on the menu churros, because it's a top end, this is a high end restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, how often do you see churros on
like high
on a high end menu? Is it like, so we're thinking, Marlon's saying this out loud. He's like, churros? Like, how good is this churro? A churro is a churro, right?
Yeah.
Like Disneyland. He actually said Disneyland. Is it like Disneyland churro? Like what's the deal? So Tanner stopped by, and so Marlon, had said that. So I said something to Tanner. I'm like, dude, he said it. How good is this churro? Churro's just a churro, right? And he goes, this ain't no Disneyland churro. And the fact that he hadn't been there, just the timing of it for him to say that was just, it was a lot funnier than what I just said.
Yeah.
You can imagine how funny it was.
Yeah.
Just being on point that quick, just to say it was no Disneyland churro. And so then we're talking, well, maybe next time we'll order it. And he goes, do you want one? I'm like, yeah, bring him a sample. He doesn't bring him a sample. Look at that. There are 5 big sticks there. Brings us the whole thing. And so, obviously, we taste the churro. I even tasted the churro. I'm not a regular churro eater, and I don't remember ever having one at Disneyland, but I doubt if it's this good. But yeah, that's our theme now. That's the saying. Like, whenever I see Marlon, it's gonna be, this ain't no Disneyland churro. I love that line, dude. It's like the line of the night. We probably said it 20 more times.
You're gonna have to throw it on a
and
shirt
we were already at the end of the. Dude, it would be a great shirt for them to put their Toca Madera, logo on a sleeve. Like, my shirt to put, this ain't no Disneyland churro. In a picture just like that. You could do a little picture like that on the churro, whatever, outline or something. That would be awesome. I love it. Yeah, it was just fantastic. It was crisp on the outside, and I guess Marlon says typically they're a little bit more chewy on the inside, where this was not like chewy like that. It had more fluff to it, and it was just good. It was just good. And the sauces were just crazy. I mean, that one white cream sauce, like, he took and just finished that off with a spoon. That shit was so good. That's how good the dessert was. And like I said, my strawberries. And then, he took care of all the desserts.
The waiter?
Tanner did. Like, I was, I thought, he just was throwing us because they had said, hey, Tanner took care of, no, he took care of all the desserts.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, that's like $100 worth of desserts sits there.
Yeah.
Because they were right around, 22 to $25
per plate.
Per plate there. Yeah. No, we got taken care of very, very well. And I took care of the staff very, very well, too, when I took care of that. But, yeah, just fantastic. Good young guy, and great place. It's become one of our favorites now. I just need to be able to get in more often.
Get in more often.
See, look, I didn't even wear a hat. I always wear a hat.
About to say that.
Because they have a dress code, but there were people wearing their hat in there. but they stressed their dress code. But once we were there, I'm like, are you really not enforcing your dress code? Because it don't look like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With some of these younger people there that like I'd prefer to wear my hat.
Mm-hmm.
Even in an outfit like that, I
You
would
can still throw a hat on. Yeah.
I got over 100 hats. I got a hat that goes with that outfit, but it was all right. I look good. I can just, roll with it sometimes. You're listening to the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy, and I'm the fucking guy that needs you to hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, like as well, make a comment. It's all appreciated. Y'all have a great week. God bless. I'm the fucking guy. So, Memorial Day, we're here. And I wanted to talk a minute about Memorial Day, just because here's the thing. I saw somebody make a post, because it's happened in the past, that some people complain when other people say Happy Memorial Day.
Of course, there's people complaining about that.
They complain about that. And look, I get it that, that there are people that don't. And the other thing they complain about, although I haven't seen it this time, but I haven't spent that much time on social media, on scrolling or doing anything like that. But what I've seen in the past, though, too, is people complaining about on Memorial Day thanking veterans for their service. Because it's not Veterans Day. It's honoring this isn't me.
No, I get that.
I totally get it. Like, I'm with you.
I have seen that before. Now you said
and
that.
Here's the thing. When it's not Memorial Day, when it's not Veterans Day, and especially people who are center to conservative, I think are more apt when somebody tells them, or they find out somebody is either in the service or they have served, that they'll thank them for their service.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll do that. However, I don't want to go out. I almost went down a rabbit hole, and I won't do that on liberals who served, because some people I don't honor quite as much just because you served, that they're a little arrogant like that. But that's usually liberal people who have served. But anyways, it's usually, and they just mean well. They just take it for what it means. That somebody is just being nice, polite, and, because we went through a period that you never went through, okay? And it happened before me, okay? That people who came back from Vietnam were treated like shit.
Yeah.
So that's why you have so many of my generation, Gen X, and the ones before me who acknowledge now, make an effort to acknowledge, because it was just wrong what happened. Those guys were drafted. They didn't just volunteer to be in a war and defend the country. So they didn't, they might have had views that were different.
Yeah.
But they served, and they didn't run away from it. They didn't run to Canada or burn their card or say, I'm not serving, or none of that stuff. They did their duty, because that's what people did back then. Mostly is what people did. But they were treated like shit. So again, that's the context of it. People just want to, they don't want that to ever happen or think that you don't matter. And also, I think most people know, not only do we not treat our veterans well or take good enough care of them with benefits and, things like that, that we also don't take good care of the ones that are actually serving right now. And anybody who's had a family member in knows how difficult it is, and the little money that they get. People always want to say, teachers don't get paid enough. I'll tell you who doesn't get paid enough is the people that serve in our military at the, just starting out, when it's difficult for them to get food sometimes. And that's like a real thing when family members are having to send boxes of stuff or making sure money is sent extra. I'm sorry, that shouldn't be a thing. That's a main thing that our government is supposed to provide is security and national defense. So they should fucking pay for it. That's the number one thing your taxes should go for, because it's that protects everything else about the Constitution. It's that and getting ties it right into Memorial Day. It's that which allows me and these far left wing nuts to bitch and complain and talk shit about each other on social media. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to do that, because what we do and how we criticize each other and our government, tell me another country that's allowed in. Tell me another country. Now, we have our issues. We have our issues with free speech and people trying to control things and who says what. But still, generally, you get to pretty much say anything you want in this country at a higher level than any other motherfucking country. Any. You can't name one. So that's why I think it's important. But I wish people that had an issue with the, Happy Memorial Day also would consider, like, it is a federal holiday. People are getting the day off, okay? And what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to be somber and, like, depressed? And how much of the weekend am I supposed to think about this? See, to me, it's more about moments that I hope that people take a moment or two or several, over the course of Thursday to Monday, because some people do start early. They might get, they might take Thursday or Friday off themselves or whatever, and then they also get Monday off, extending the holiday. I know that because when I was in Mexico last week, when I was coming back from Mexico, they were all coming in, and the line was long. People wanted to, because Friday it was going to be even worse, traffic-wise, crossing that particular border entry. And for me, I just want people to just take a moment. And for some people, you might go to an event. There were 350,000 people at Indy. Is that insane, dude?
That's a lot of people.
Dude, I've been there. I've been there one time, dude. One time I've been there. Well, I've been there twice. Once for a practice round, which was fun. And then I also went another time for the actual race and camped out and stayed. And, when I was young and did dumb shit. And God, I would never do that again. It's insane, dude. The shit that goes on there. Like,
at a racetrack.
I saw some things. It's, if you can't imagine the thing. Well, it's like, I guess it's a podcast. I can say it. I'm not on the radio anymore. I can say whatever I want. There was a chick playing with herself. She actually had a cast on. That's why I kind of remember. It was weird. But she had a bathing suit on, and then she took it off, and she was on top of a camper putting on a show. People like that kind of stuff. And she had a cast on her leg below her knee. Yep. But I'm just telling you, it was that kind of crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, and that was a couple days worth going on, and people were trashed 24/7.
A lot of alcohol being consumed. Oh yeah.
Yeah, not the same as just showing up at race day and people going in and there's 100,000 people there. Which you can get. At a football event, at a college event, you can get 80 to 100,000 in some of those stadiums. But you're talking 3.5 times. So the Big House, I think, is known as the biggest of all of the stadiums for seating. And Ohio State's really close to them too. But it's pretty close to 100,000, I think, in the Big House at Michigan. So think of that, 3.5 of the Big House that's full, 107. So literally 3.5 of that. 3.5 of that in one place. And like, you're not leaving the race 10 minutes early to get to your car and get out of the parking lot. You understand what I'm saying? And the parking, all of, like, it's The whole thing is insane. It's an insane weekend. But my whole point about Memorial Day is they did a really cool, I don't want to call it event. They did a really nice memorial. They memorialized the day and our fallen soldiers. They did a really good thing with it yesterday, and so that was fun to see. I did see that, and I did see the beginning of the race, and one guy not even get started in the race because during the warm-up laps going around, when they're just in the basic,
His car fell apart.
yeah. Yeah, that's like the worst. And then somebody else, I think it was Andretti, Marco, that first lap, he didn't make it through the first lap. Man. That's got to be the worst, man. You put all that effort into the whole week, man. And, that's like being with like the super hot girl and you like blow your load before you even get your underwear down. Right? He's kind of like that.
All that prep work for nothing.
All that prep work for nothing. Put all that work into getting the date, getting her back to your room. And
That's hilarious.
you're done. That might make a good short. Oh, I have to remember I could say anything.
Well,
Mostly.
there's a limitation, yeah.
Is there?
But for the most part, you can pretty much say whatever you like.
Yeah, but I just wanted to point it out that don't take it personally when somebody, because I'm going to do it. What else am I going to say to be polite to a cashier as I'm leaving a store on a holiday weekend? Thank you. Have a nice holiday. If it's a weekend, say, have a nice weekend. So if somebody says Happy Memorial Day, they don't mean any offense by it, so don't take any. Don't take any, because none is meant by it.
Yeah.
But I don't think people, have to be, like I said, miserable and somber the whole weekend. But you take a time, whether it's like this, or you just take the time personally to just reflect and maybe think about, be grateful. That would be a good way to treat the day, is just to be grateful to be here. Because what I believe personally is that we do have privilege, and it's not a racial privilege, but it's a country privilege with the rights that we have here. And I don't care what anyone says about Trump or anyone else taking away this right or that right. There is nowhere on this planet that you have more rights and more ability to do what you want to do than right here. To strive for it, to work for it. It's not going to be given to you. You got to work for it. And if you do put in the work, maybe there are some racial barriers, but you can get through them here. There might be financial barriers. See, I think that's the greater barrier now. The greatest separation is by income. It's not necessarily by, race. If you're poor and white, it sucks for you just as much as it sucks for somebody who is black or Mexican or whatever their heritage is. It doesn't matter. Being poor sucks. So, but we have that ability here that you don't have in every other country to be able to move into different classes. And, maybe they're accepting of it, maybe they're not. You always have your old money, and then you have some of your new money, and then you have your white trash with money, and that's the category I fall in. And I don't mind. I wear that with pride, I did before, and I'll do it again. But just don't take offense when somebody doesn't mean offense, and somebody's trying to, honor or do something nice. But for me, we at the WNBA game yesterday. We had what a great game it was. But pretty much every sporting event, and even when it's not a holiday, they do things now to honor the military or somebody in the audience that's with the military. Some of them will do it every game, but they'll always do that, and they'll do it. There's a guy been going around different events. He's like 105 years old, 105-year-old vet getting honored, World War II vet, at various things. Yeah, I think it's that guy. He's been doing more than one. He threw out the first pitch earlier this year and other things. There's other, I saw that. I just saw it in the news that there were just a number of them that did that. That was kind of cool. And the one was, I don't know if it was him, the Coast Guard was his branch of service. But
got a Pearl Harbor survivor at a game.
Yeah. But there was one guy I saw that's been doing multiple things here recently. But it's all great. Especially because, so few are remaining now from that generation. We won't be talking about it anymore or as often. So, but it's good. I like that we do that. You know what I don't like though?
What was that?
I don't like this idea that the MAGA movement is a patriotic movement. And there are some that are really trying to label this movement like that's just all we are, or that there's no real substance behind it. We're not trying to rewrite history. We're not trying to say that America is perfect, was perfect, is perfect now. We're not trying to say any of that shit. But I've always said, what purpose does it serve to, acknowledge your past, acknowledge your wrongs, but how much time do you want to spend on it after that? I mean, again, studying our past, studying history, all important things. But we also need to focus on what the situation is now and what we need to do to make things better and for everyone to have opportunity today. And again, it's about just being grateful for the country we live in. And gratitude gets us so much in life. If you're in a tough space, I know that it's very, very hard. But one of the things I recommend when I talk to men of all ages that are in a tough spot, I encourage them to start, because they're down, they're not feeling good, they're not feeling positive, to start by, man, you got to find something that you can be grateful for. And that can be hard. I get it. But if you try hard enough, you will find something that you are grateful for. You should be able to find many things, but you can find one. And then build on that. Because just constantly focusing on the negative is just going to create bad vibes, bad atmosphere, bad attitude, and it's just going to bring you more of the same. Because if that's what you're putting out around people, how excited are they going to be around you? They're not. And I'm not saying to be fake by any means, or I'm not even suggesting people fake it till they make it. I'm talking about being real grateful and realizing, like I had to realize when I lost everything and went from 4,800 square feet to 1,000 square feet, if it was that I needed to be as grateful for that 1,000 square feet that I had as I was the 4,800. Because still in that position, how many people in the world didn't have that? See, we only think in context of the United States and the people around us. And that's just not the world. We have that opportunity. We live better here as a mass of people than any other group of people anywhere. You know, China may compete with us, but they do not compete with us for quality of life. It's not even close. Not even close. So just being that grateful. I think adding gratitude to your Memorial Day would be a good thing. That's what I tried to do. But I'm just being honest. I'm also going to tell people, wish people, you know, have a happy day. You know, why? What do you think? I want you to have a shitty day? No, I don't. Unless I don't like you and I don't care. But that's all good. There's a couple of those people this weekend too. Dude, like I just, you know, answering people's questions and stuff on a holiday weekend, which I do and did. And somebody had, you know, engaged in our services. And it took a few days, like 4 or 5 days, answering questions. Then he decided he was in and sent money yesterday.
Okay.
And then later in the day was asking about, you know, the email and tracking. It's like, dude, you know, I sent you the information that says right at the top how our shipping works. So I sent that to you so that I didn't have to answer questions, but you had to read it. So you obviously didn't read it. I sent that to you specifically to answer these kind of questions. And then to like ask again, like, dude, it's a fucking Sunday on Memorial Day weekend. What the fuck is wrong with you? I actually said that. I like called. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Like, it's 5 o'clock here. Mm-hmm. You know, he was in Alabama. It's 8 o'clock there. What the fuck you think? I'm not Amazon, dude. We're a big business, but I'm not Amazon, for God's sakes. Like, people are like, who talks to people like that? I do. When people, because that's one of the beautiful things that I love, that I get to do, pick and choose my clients and do business with people that appreciate us. And, you know, if they can't be respectful, then they can just go somewhere else. And then they're shocked, you know. I don't care, you know, but it's funny, their reaction then. You know, 20 minutes ago, I was the greatest dude on the planet. And now because I told you that this is, and I'll just say it like that. I won't even be a dick about it. Like, you know what? This really isn't working out. You might want to find somebody who's a better match. And then I'm an asshole. No, you were the asshole. You're doing stupid shit. Chill the fuck out. You know, but all right. That's okay. Must be roid rage. It always is, right? I didn't know. Did you know that originally, before Memorial Day, was called Decoration Day?
Like badges, like decorated badges, maybe? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that was after the Civil War, I guess. So.
Oh, that far back? Oh, wow.
It was that's between that period of time and now. I mean, you know,
between that time and now. Okay.
Between that time and well, it became a federal holiday in 71. I don't know what that. So at least in 71, I'd say we called it Memorial Day.
Gotcha. But beforehand, it was still celebrated, but it was not nationally or whatever.
Well, it was Decoration Day, and you know, you may not have gotten paid for it. You know,
it's like National Pancake Day or whatever. It was just another day.
So a couple of highlights from the MAHA movement. So we have our MAGA movement, and then inside the MAGA movement, we have our MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again. I didn't know that they had done this. I just saw this recently, that RFK or HHS secured voluntary industry pledges to reduce sugar in school lunches. I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about that because I don't trust. I don't know how you would put it into writing or, what percentage, because then when you do set percentages, then people are going to do up to what that percentage is, and maybe you wanted it less. It's better than not getting voluntary pledges, but at least it's an acknowledgement of how big a deal sugar is in the American diet, and not a good deal either, but just we're over sugared in this country for sure. So, but I had just picked that up. But what I do find odd, and people think that, we don't criticize the Trump. If you're a supporter like I am, or you voted for him, that you don't ever criticize the administration ever. And that's just not true. That's just not true with me and most of us. We'll push back against dumb stuff, which is what it seems like we have to do on a regular basis from the unhinged lunatics. But this is something I don't really like, and that I don't understand about the Trump administration, is with some of I know these appointments take time, but the USDA chief of staff, okay, a chick by the name of Kaylee Buller, she's a former seed oil lobbyist. So a lobbyist for that industry.
Okay.
Well, that does not work with the MAHA movement. And the idea of, being against highly processed foods. And there's even been, criticism from RFK himself about how slow the USDA is getting on board with this healthier push, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why in the world would you have a chief of staff? Somebody who's working for the secretary of the USDA that comes from that area. Now, if they came from that area, if maybe they've changed their mind, do you know what I'm saying? If maybe, they worked in that industry and then they're like, oh my God, this is not good, and they got out, that's different.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case here. So and this is just the example I have right now, but if I spent a minute, I could definitely come up with other examples of the Trump administration doing this, or at least where on my side questioning what the fuck is going on here. Why? Because that, to me, this is what draining the swamp meant, was getting rid of these type of people who put blocks up or make it hard to implement the president's agenda. This is the deep state. These are the people that, are most likely not Trump supporters. And I'm not saying that they have to all be yes man, that kind of thing, but you want people that are willing, if you're going to take the job, to implement the president's strategy, whoever the president is. If it's a Democrat president, he won, he should get his shit implemented. That's just the rules of how motherfucking shit works. You want your ideas to be the one implemented in the path you follow? Win the fucking election. That's how you do it. But this is somebody who's not elected. It's different. I get it if somebody's a politician and they're from a district that maybe, like I said, didn't go Trump's way, that went Kamala's way, then they should stand up against more of these things. Just naturally, you would think they would, right? I would. So I don't understand that. I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know how other people feel about it, but it was something that I've seen, and I wanted to demonstrate a couple of things And one specifically being like, why are we having people like this still in the administration? And I get sometimes people are going to slip through. I get that. Okay, now get rid of them. There's no good reason you can't get rid of this person, you know? I don't know. I don't think it's just not a good thing with this kind of stuff, and especially with what we're trying to do, because it's all been talked before and people are hoping to get action. And I think that's my biggest concern as a MAGA supporter, or being MAGA, because I've been MAGA before we even had Trump. That's what people don't understand about the movement. That we want to change within the Republican Party. A whole bunch of us were just, obviously a majority of us, because we took over the party. We're done with the elitism and bullshit of the fuckers that came before us and had control, and talking more about Bush administration days and Dick Cheney and that kind of stuff. So what I want is real action. I want, when I see this budget stuff, I don't want you to tell me that we're increasing the debt by a lower amount than we previously did. See, they think that's a good thing. They think it's a good thing if the increase was going to be, $500 billion and we only increase it by $300 billion. Well, that's a cut. We're getting... No, there's no reason. I mean, at some point, and I believe we're at that point, and so do a lot of people. At some point, you just got to say enough is enough. This is the amount of money we have, and there's going to be no deficit. We're not going to add to the national debt at all. And we have this to work in, and what's our priorities within this amount that we want these monies to go to. And I'm sorry if somebody's pet project or like certain thing, doesn't make the list. You can lobby for it, work for it, whatever, to get your stuff in there. That's how it should work. But it should be everybody's priorities. Not just the kind of wanna or, would be nice. I saw Governor Whitcomb, Michigan, that, complaining about the cuts in Medicaid, and specifically the benefits that they provide and healthcare benefits they provide illegal immigrants. That's what their concern is. That's what their focus is on. Not the citizens. I mean, look, it's one thing if we had the money to do that kind of thing, but we don't. It's been a drain on our system. It's why we, have these deficits. It's why the debt is out of control. And I'm a part of the conservative movement, and always pretty much have been, of the more fiscal conservatives. Of we got to get this shit in line. And we've done nothing but talk about it for over 30 years. And we got away with it for a while. And look, I believe in growing our economy. And if you grow your economy and you collect more taxes, that makes it better too. Okay. But you know what we've never tried? We've never cut spending and cut taxes at the same time. Now, Troy, why would you cut taxes? The reason you cut taxes is because history has shown us, if people actually want to look at it, that in the times we have, now there's certainly a point where it doesn't work, but with where we're at, that every time we've cut taxes, guess what went up? Collections. How does that happen? Because people move their money around more, and that's when money is taxed. So let me just give you this example. So if you own a building, Chase, so if you owned a building and the capital tax rate was really high, you might just keep renting it out, doing whatever because the tax rate is high, and
there's no need
you
to be wasting all that.
Yeah, you like to. Yeah, you'll put it off. You'll put off paying the tax bill because you bought the building for $500,000 and it's now worth $3 million. And maybe you put another $500,000 into it, so you got $2 million in potential capital gains there. Now, there's ways to sell and buy and move that tax around, but I'm just trying to keep it simple now. And people will do that to avoid the tax because it's legal to do that, like trade properties kind of thing, right? Swap properties. But what somebody may do, if the tax has always been 25% or 20%, and the government for a period of time, because you don't know how long it's going to last, lowers that capital gains to 15% or 10%, you might say, you know what? This is as good a time as any for me to like sell this building with capital gains and just pay it and be done with it and take my profit and move on to something else. Those are all good things, but then they're able to collect it. See, if you just raising tax, if you raise a tax high enough, then people stop moving that money around. They stop doing those kinds of transactions. So I know in some people's heads, it doesn't always make sense. Well, why would, cutting generate more money? That's why. It's no different than corporate taxes, money made overseas. When the corporate tax rate is really high, big corporations leave that money overseas. And what happened when Trump came in last administration and he lowered it, they brought that money home and paid the tax on it. Like, we better do it now because now's the time we can bring it home. We don't know we're going to be able to bring it home in 6 years with the next president. So that's where that could be. But we've cut taxes to like get the economy growing and growing the economy. And we did that during Reagan too. And we did a great job of that in turning things around. But even then, here's what happened and what a little bit of history is, so you can kind of have a context being younger, is they gave Reagan his tax cuts, but they made Reagan agree to that in the bill that they passed, they wouldn't cut spending yet, but they would do it in the near future.
Okay.
And he agreed. Guess what happened? They didn't cut spending.
And that's where everything went downhill.
Well, it added two things, like the economy got better because with the taxes and stuff, because there was a time when we had like 70 and 80% tax rates. We had crazy tax rates. But what we also had was a lot of deductions too.
Gotcha. So
what happened is when they lowered the rate, they got rid of some deductions to kind of even it out a little bit. But that's what I mean. Like, how, as good as it was, how much better could it have been if we'd have gotten the spending, the government spending too? There's two powerful forces that we've just never done. We've increased taxes and increased spending. That's not a good formula. We've decreased taxes and increased spending. It was a little better, but still not the answer. We've never really done, in my lifetime, and I don't know if it was done before, but in my lifetime, we've never cut taxes and cut spending both. It's crazy because it's not a complicated answer. That's literally what the answer is to getting things in line, and I don't see that happening right now. I'm concerned about that, so I'm not regretting my vote because I know what I would have got on the other side. And this thing about, we're cutting Medicaid so billionaires can have the tax. What they're doing, what Trump had to do in his previous administration when he cut taxes, to get enough votes, they had to sunset it. And that sunset year is this year, meaning that if from the time they implemented it in Trump's first administration until now, if Congress didn't make those changes permanent, then it would revert back to the way it was before Trump. And the tax rates were higher. Guess for who? Everyone, and especially the middle class. So it would be an enormous tax increase for the middle class. It would be a tax increase for the rich too, but guess what? They could handle it. It ain't going to matter to them. The people that Trump's tax cut really, really mattered to was the middle class. And what this bill, a big part of, now there's some extras in there, tax cuts, getting rid of paying taxes on tips and overtime and that kind of stuff.
I heard that wasn't included in it.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Now, we don't know if it's going to be in the final bill. We've only got through one step of the process.
Gotcha.
We've only gotten through the process of the House. Now that bill goes to the Senate, and the Senate has to, and then they have to, both the okay, and then it goes to the president's desk, right? So we gotten through that first part, but that did stay in there. What Trump wanted to do was something with the tax code for seniors so that they didn't have to pay tax on their Social Security benefits.
Okay.
So not everybody pays taxes on their Social Security benefits, but there's the poor that get Social Security don't. But the middle class that gets Social Security benefits, for some of them, you don't have to be rich to hit that amount where you're paying taxes on your Social Security benefits, which is really shitty,
Because you already paid taxes on it.
Yes. Yes, it really is. So because of how they're trying to get things passed with the method that they're using, they're not allowed to make that change. So to get the result that Trump promised, he's just using a different method to get mostly the same result. And that's some kind of tax credit for that to happen.
Gotcha.
So it may not be perfect to work out, but it's as close as he can get to keeping his promise.
Gotcha.
And that if he didn't do it this way, he wouldn't be able to keep any of the part of the promise at all, because, that's just there's just not enough votes to do it, to be able to get 60 votes. That's why they're doing things the way that they're doing it now. So that all being said, taxes. What people need to understand is what the benefit is to them. And at least for me, I realize with any president that I'm not going to get everything I want, even with a president that I appreciate greatly and like a lot of the policies. And I think because he gets so much criticism on the left from the left-wing nuts, lunatics, people on the right are more hesitant to do what I'm doing now, mentioning things like this. Because then they're going to say, see, you should regret, this is what you voted for. It's those people.
Yeah, they're just going to hop on.
But I'm going to just be honest anyways, because just who I am. That this is how I feel about this. This is how I feel about this particular issue. And like I said, first thing that was bothering me is that we're not clearing enough people out of the swamp. That should be pretty obvious. Like picks, there people that be like, you might want to, whose job is it to vet this person? To say, okay, this is somebody we want in that position. It's not like Trump can do all that or know all those positions. Nobody knows that many people. Yeah. You just can't do that shit. You have to count on other people. But that's somebody's fucking job. And I don't know that job is getting done as well as I would like. And then the other thing, it's Congress. It's Congress. That I don't see Congress doing enough. What I see, and look, I get Trump in the administration, the White House, blaming Biden and DEI and some of the things for going on in the airport. But the truth is, the problem is so much bigger than that. And it wasn't something that Biden did. It's something every administration has done going back over 30 years that you and I talked about, basically with the equipment and shit that we're using. Yeah. That's every administration being responsible, and even more so than whatever the administration is, because it doesn't matter who the administration is. Congress can act and put it before the president and make the president decide to sign it or veto it, right? Mm-hmm. Congress isn't doing its job. And they're not doing their job of oversight, obviously, that they claim that my job is oversight, because there's been cost overruns and we still don't have a better system. We've spent billions of dollars and we don't have a better system. And Trump's cuts in 2 months, he didn't cut air traffic controllers. That had nothing to do with this problem. There was a shortage of air traffic controllers, and we can blame Biden on that there were qualified people that passed the test to get in, but because they were white, they decided not to hire them. Okay, so there's some legitimate criticism there, but let's just take a step back. Instead of criticizing each other, instead of each party criticizing, the previous president or the current president, let's blame the right motherfuckers. Let's blame Congress. Let's blame the motherfuckers whose job it is to fund this stuff and get this stuff fixed. That should be part of that. That should be where Republicans and Democrats can come together. And I think Doge should be a part of it, or something like a Doge, where you have outside, wealthy, brilliant computer geniuses that we have in this country that have created some of the greatest, biggest companies in the world tell us and get this shit done. And get it done like this, get it done like Trump got the ice skating rink done in New York City. I know it's bigger, but it's a good analogy that, he got something done in less than a year. It was a handful of months versus something they'd been working on for years and still never getting it done. That's what the shit that's going on in, the FAA now, not FFA, FAA right now. It's nuts. But I would like to see more of us come together overall to address these kind of things where we can, no matter what you think or what side you're on. Just one issue. Let's just try one issue. That should be one issue, right? Let's see if we can get one thing done together. But it's just not happening. And that's what my concern is that the Republican Congress, and I actually think Mike Johnson's doing a much better job than I thought he was, and I've learned quite a bit more about him, and I would say he's somebody I like. I do like what he's done, and because his job, he's got an incredibly difficult job, getting all these different groups together inside the Republican Party and then dealing with these lunatics on the left that, aren't even participating really. The idea is not to participate. It's solely to just oppose whatever and not have an opposing plan. You should have an alternative plan, that's what it should be, but it's not happening. But as a MAGA supporter, yes, that's what I want. There are things that I'm not happy about, and I'm not afraid to express what the things I'm not happy about. And, let's see, one more. I do want to give one more that I've mentioned. And transparency. We're getting tremendous transparency from this administration, but not on everything we want. We're not getting transparency on the Epstein files. And, I want to know more about, and why can't it be released? Why don't we have more information on the assassination attempts on Trump? Remember, there were some links or something that young kid was having some type of communications abroad, supposedly, right? Why has nothing been said to us about that stuff?
Time moved on too quick.
Well, is anybody investigating it? What? We don't even know if I assume they are, but do we even know?
I haven't, ever since the second attempt, I haven't heard anything.
We haven't heard shit about either one of them, dude. I mean, is that dude even had to show up in court again? Usually you hear that, throughout the process. Yeah. Oh, the, Trump assassination attempt guy, whatever. Is in court today for
the trial of blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Whatever. Not, even the shit that happened, the pretrial shit's reported.
Yeah.
We're not getting anything. So where is that prosecution even at? I mean, because you can't just have the dude sit in jail. He has no, you can't. You have to prosecute him at some point.
At some point, yeah.
At some point.
I think they get like up to a year or something like that.
I don't know, man. That's not supposed to be like this. And I want to know. I think we all have a right to know more about it and what they found out afterwards. And there's got to be, documents and information. Release that shit. I want more of that as well. Last thing I wanted to hit, because I've been seeing this a lot, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. There's a lot of information out now, and it's a lot of bad information when it comes to, I'm seeing it more with the peptides now. I used to see it more with the PEDs, the performance-enhancing drugs, the steroids. I would see bad information. And it's really hard working with new clients who are doing research because they care about their body and what they put in their body, and they're just researching stuff and think they know shit. Because I've been there. I thought I knew shit. I studied stuff for easy over 10 years, 15 years actually, before I ever started using. And I thought I had a good background, a good knowledge in it. But until I started using personally, and then I started helping other people do things the right way, it's two different worlds. That your hour you spend researching on the internet, reading stuff that you don't know whether it's true or not, because you don't know how to sift through what's true and what's not true, especially when it comes to side effects and things like that and what to expect. And versus I've worked with thousands of individuals to help them do that and see what their results were on different protocols, different dosages, and just in the real world, how it works. Which gave me, much greater understanding than just reading about definitions, what something's supposed to do, what pathways it hits, what things it activates, and things like that. And it just makes it really, really hard. And I am concerned about that now with the peptides. Because the most popular one, as I've mentioned right now, is the NAD+, because of its anti-aging benefits and things like that. DNA repair, at the cellular level as well. I take it because getting more clarity, working, things like that. A lot of people, that's why it's really popular with a lot of individuals, especially those that are, in the technology area and, seem to work 20 hours in a new startup and sleeping on the floor and those kind of things. They're looking for any edge they can get. And this is definitely something that works. And then we see offshoots because something becomes popular. Then we see these offshoots of other supplements that are supposed to help or promote that in happening, and especially on the natural side, so-called, and they don't work. And here's the thing when it comes to natural. To my mind, peptides are about as natural as you can get, because peptides are amino acids and your body makes those amino acid chains, and it makes up, they're part of growth hormone, remember, and then these different segments of that growth hormone chain are what a peptide is, and your body makes it. Now, look, they're not pulling it out of somebody else's body and giving it to you. They're making the synthetic equivalent of it, but it's still something your body actually fucking makes. It's not like a drug that's different that, you know, your body doesn't even make. And so don't get fooled by this natural shit, because usually that stuff runs $60 to $100 or more. And again, doesn't work even a tenth as well as what the real thing works. And in this case, the NAD plus is not cheap. It's not a cheap peptide to use on a regular basis. I'm not saying you have to be rich to have it, but you need to be doing probably pretty decent to consider this, or it just depends on what you decide to budget yourself. You know, I do the same thing with PEDs and supplements. I prioritize, and I prioritize that for clients too. What's the most important? What do I say is always the most important? And you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, especially for men. Your testosterone level. Do that. And then you just kind of go down the list. If you can do this and afford this, fine. You want to add something else and do something else that might benefit you, you go here. And you stop at the point where you can't afford it. And I do lots of different things because I can't afford it. So why not? That's no different than, there are people that spend even way more than I do that I've seen. And I spend a lot on myself, but I'm able to. But find what you can do. Pick the best that you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck out of. This is a good one. So I know people are interested in it. But don't go with this bullshit option that's cheaper, that doesn't work. That's not value. That's not cheaper when it doesn't work. You're just wasting your fucking money, and I don't want to see y'all waste your money. So there's different ways to do it. I think one of the more expensive ways, or probably the most expensive way, is to do it like in an IV, but that is a way. Probably the most effective way is the way that I do it, and that's getting the peptide in a powder, mixing bacteriostatic water with it, and doing it as a subcutaneous injection around my belly button area, or, well, the NAD I even do into my leg. Okay, so there's different ways but to do it, but that's the best. In pills, in other forms, it's just not as effective as what this is. And that's going to be your best bang for your buck with this, and it's whether or not you can afford it or not. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there, that just be careful with. I love the peptides. I hope more people learn about peptides and how they work, and we're going to try to share more of that information on a regular basis too. And there you go. Do that. All right. I got some more stuff to do today. My day isn't over. We've had a great weekend so far. We wish everyone a happy Memorial Day. You knew I was going to say that, right? No, we appreciate and honor those that gave us this great opportunity here, including what I do right here. So thank you very much. God bless. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life.